Welcome to Bunny Trails, a whimsical adventure of idioms and other turns of phrase. I'm Shauna Harrison.
And I'm Dan Pugh. Each week, we take an idiom or other turn of phrase and try to tell the story from its entry into the English language to how it's used today. It is that time of year again, the time where people are hurried and stressed, and sometimes that turns into rudeness towards others, though it's probably more like frustration that there isn't enough time, money, or patience to go around and get things done before the big day. But it is also the time of year where most people go out of their way to try to be nicer to others, let little frustrations slide instead of blowing up about them, and focus on the nostalgia of goodwill and enjoyable times of days past, when life was simpler and more peaceful because we didn't have as many responsibilities or we are just willfully misremembering our past. And for some, it's the time of year where you are filled with joy and thankfulness for the life you have and the people in that life with you. Taking your normal day-to-day frustrations and turning them into joy, that is what we do this time of year to get the Christmas spirit. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, Christmas spirit means, quote, a mood or attitude appropriate to the Christmas season, especially one involving feelings of goodwill, benevolence, and a willingness to enjoy oneself, end quote. Shauna, what do you do to get into the Christmas spirit?
Okay, this might sound really cheesy or something, but I kind of have this feeling all the time where I'm like,
Oh, you're just always in the Christmas spirit?
I don't know if I consider it the
You're gonna make me
Christmas
barf.
spirit. It's not like tied to, a holiday type of thing, but it's more about like this whole thing of like, can't we just be nice? you know?
So I like to get into this Christmas spirit by listening to Christmas music after
Nice.
Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh.
I am a very firm Christmas is not allowed to be around until after Thanksgiving. And one of my favorite memes that goes around this time of year is something along the lines that says the war on Christmas will continue until the Claus regime returns to the post-Thanksgiving time frame that was agreed upon in the Black Friday Accords.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
very clever.
Yes, and I am a fan of celebrating Halloween and then celebrating Thanksgiving, and then we can celebrate Christmas. But it could just be me as an old man yelling at clouds. Still, I like the idea of getting into the Christmas spirit with music, and that I don't do a lot of other holiday things, but I do like to do the Christmas thing. I have a Christmas album that is Tony Bennett doing a lot of Christmas songs with a variety of different people, and we have one with Lady Gaga as well, a lot of Christmas stuff, and so there's just a couple of different really beautiful jazzy Christmas style things. I like Michael Bublé all times of the year, but along Christmas, he gets to shine. I don't have any Mariah Carey, but I certainly listened to a lot of Mariah Carey in the 90s. But
Yeah.
so definitely music is how I get myself into the Christmas spirit.
Yeah, that's great. My family used to listen to the Alvin and the Chipmunks Christmas album.
I had that album for a long
Yeah.
time.
I do really enjoy Christmas music, and I think that I more just get into the Christmas spirit as the area around me changes. So people start to decorate, and I don't know. I just like I feel that sense of it, and there are more family-centered events and things, and more community events around the holiday season, and I think that helps me get into the spirit too.
Nice. Well, before we jump into the phrase Christmas spirit, I should note that the spirit of Christmas, meaning a personification of a spirit or ghost representing Christmas, has been around for a much longer time than the phrase we're going to talk about today. So the phrase that we're looking at is about how we feel about or feel at Christmas time. We are going to focus on the use of Christmas in spirit in the how we feel sense, not in the ghost sense.
Okay.
So let's kick off. The idea of Christmas spirit may have originated with early works of Washington Irving, who was living in England when he wrote his famous work, The Sketchbook of Geoffrey Crown, Gentleman. You may not be familiar with the serialized work, but you have probably heard of the stories Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, both of which first appeared in this collection. It was immensely popular in the United States and Europe. As for Christmas spirit, it does not appear Irving ever actually put the words Christmas and spirit together. Still, some of the stories in Volume 5 of this collection, dated 1819, did speak on the concept in general terms, like in this passage from the story called Christmas. Quote, all of the old festivals, however, that of Christmas awakens the strongest and most heartfelt associations. There is a tone of solemn and sacred feeling that blends with our conviviality and lifts the spirit to a state of hallowed and elevated enjoyment. End quote. So that definitely feels like it's talking about the Christmas spirit, even though it
Yeah.
doesn't use that phrase. And then there's this one from The Stagecoach, also in Volume 5. Quote, I am tempted to follow it up by some anecdotes of a Christmas past in this country, which may serve as practical illustrations of my general remarks, in pursuing which I would most courteously invite my reader to lay aside the austerity of wisdom and, putting on the genuine holy day spirit, which is tolerant of folly and anxious only for amusement, to attend with all indulgence to the scenes I shall endeavor to represent. End quote.
Okay.
So Irving is talking about feelings we get during Christmas time, and he even uses the phrase holy day spirit. But I just didn't find anything with him actually putting Christmas and spirit together. Still, because of his broad popularity, it is little wonder that we started seeing the phrase pop up just a few Christmases after these writings. The first example I could find is from a periodical called The Portfolio, and it was based out of London, which is where Washington Irving lived at the time. This issue is number 17 of Volume 4 and was dated 1 January 1825. Quote, enough of the holy day amusements and gambols still remain, and these few are the more cherished because years have mellowed them into veneration. In truth, we will long preserve the spirit of Christmas even after its form has moldered away. End quote.
Wow.
So that's the first time I could find something that actually put spirit and Christmas together in the non-ghost sense.
Right. It's just talking about that attitude or,
Exactly. Here's another early example from the Derby Mercury out of Derbyshire, England, and this is dated 26 December 1827, so just about 2 years later. In the newspaper, there is a letter to the editor that was dated 24 December 1827, so just before Christmas. In this letter, the author, who describes himself as an old man, complains about the young people of this generation and their lack of benevolent heart-bursting, which I can only assume is joy. That characterized the author's younger days. So that's what he is complaining, that the young people of the generation don't do the same things he did when he was young. Still, I like this one because the author ends one paragraph with what he means by the true spirit of Christmas, before also saying that his generation should also embrace it. Quote, up then, my young friends, call forth your best feelings, sharpen your wits, brighten your smiles, bring in your holly boughs, prepare your Yule cakes, undraw your purse strings, present your New Year's gifts with gallantry and grace, and shake the poor man's hand with a shilling in your palm. This Christmas spirit should, methinks, be more particularly kept up in the country, because those who dwell in retirement are in danger of living too much for themselves and of becoming selfish and individualized. End quote. So that first part, he was talking about the young folks and then immediately transitions into a new paragraph talking about how they need to keep up that same Christmas spirit in the country, maybe even more importantly, because there are real dangers of them becoming curmudgeonly.
this is so funny because it's like, it feels like, I don't know, a little bit of a turn for that, like older generation talking to the younger generation. And that's neat to see here.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty brutal to the younger generation, but maybe it was a time where people spoke more directly.
Yeah.
Who knows? At this point, I should mention Charles Dickens's 1843 work, A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a ghost story of Christmas. The reason I mention this is because there's a lot of talk about spirits in the story, but alas, these are ghosts he speaks of. And spoiler alert for a 180-year-old story, while Scrooge ends up learning about the Christmas spirit, the concept we're talking about, and becomes joyous and celebratory in the end, Dickens never uses the phrase Christmas spirit or a spirit of Christmas in A Christmas Carol. So
Yeah.
there's that. The Christmas Carol, the actual work, the 1843 work, does not include Christmas spirit in any way except referring to
The
the
ghosts or
ghosts. Yes,
yeah.
yes. However, it doesn't mean Dickens didn't use the phrase. He does use it in other stories, such as this piece I found reprinted in the Cecil Whig out of Elkton, Maryland, dated 7 February 1852, titled Dickens' Christmas Story: What a Christmas Is as We Grow Older, by Charles Dickens. In it, Dickens encourages the reader to put away some of the stress of life and celebrate Christmas as they did when they were young. Presumably, this is because they didn't have as many responsibilities. Quote, Far be such miscalled philosophy from us, dear reader, on Christmas Day. Nearer and closer to our hearts be the Christmas spirit, which is the spirit of active usefulness, perseverance, cheerful discharge of duty, kindness, and forbearance. End quote. Those are fancy ways of saying being helpful and pushing through it, being able to do your job, whatever that is, with a smile on your face, being kind to others, and having patience with others as well.
I see this stuff's all good. It's nice. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if it's people complaining or if they're like just trying to encourage, you know.
Sure. Yeah. In this
But
case,
it's like it's positive. Yeah.
yeah, that particular piece that was by Dickens was definitely had a little bit of both in it.
Yeah.
All right, this next one is out of the Kuakuna Times, which is in Wisconsin, dated December 13th, 1918. Feel free to reach out to us on bunnytrailspod.com or on Patreon, patreon.com/bunnytrailspod if I have butchered the name of this town in Wisconsin. Quote, in the grim business of war and under the spur of conservation pleas wrongly understood, there is danger this year that something of the Christmas spirit will be lost. Never before has it been more important that it should not be. The Christmas spirit, as well as civilization and liberty, must be saved. End quote. And while that may feel like it's a bit of hyperbole, we should remember that 1918 was during World War I. And so for
Yeah.
many, that was not hyperbole, but in fact, a very true and real sentiment being shared.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yep. That would be a very intense time, and they're very fearful, like everybody. So yeah, I could see that being said in a very real and literal way, and not
Yes.
trying to be hyperbolic or
Yes,
extreme.
and regardless of whether you celebrate Christmas or other things during the holiday season, that typically comes towards the end of one year and the beginning of another on the Gregorian calendar. The concept that people will be experiencing that time frame while their country is at war is one that has happened all too frequently and is happening still today.
Yeah.
Here is an interesting piece in the Brownsville Herald out of Brownsville, Texas, dated December 9th, 1932. It's interesting because it features a giant image of Santa Claus sitting on a throne-like chair with contemporarily dressed shoppers all around, arms full of presents, and in all caps says, "All hail to the king." This is weird because it feels like Santa is the king. And in fact,
Huh.
that's almost certainly what they're going for here. Quote, ruler in the realm of goodwill, of friendliness and kindliness, ruler in the domain of the Christmas spirit. He holds court now in the stores and calls on you for loyalty in observance of the brotherhood of man, good fellowship to the needy, and the devotion to your kinfolks that is made manifest through gifts. Lavish has been the preparation, extensive the variety, broad in a range of choice to fit every purse, preference, and purpose. His order goes forth. Spend as generously as your heart directs, spend as economically as your means dictate, but spend to bring joy to all, to perpetuate the true Christmas spirit. End quote.
Just
Hello Capitalism
doesn't take
called,
very
and they
long.
would like their mascot back. Oh my goodness.
Is it
1932.
is it back or is it like they just want it? They're
I don't know. This isn't the birth of capitalism by any
Oh,
means,
right.
but holy moly, if this
But
isn't bluntly capitalistic about
yeah.
celebrate the true Christmas spirit by buying gifts. And specifically, they said in here is made manifest through gifts. And it's like, okay, but there's so many, like the terminology is so reminiscent of like a Christian style writing about, say, the birth of Jesus, and
Yeah.
which in most stories, the baby Jesus is given gifts by people who travel from afar. So there is that whole kind of a concept, but
So it's kind of trying to mimic that style almost, or
I feel
maybe,
like it is. That's my
maybe.
interpretation. I cannot speak to their intent, but my interpretation certainly felt that way. Of course, the link is in the show notes, so you can certainly go read it for yourself, listeners, and see what you think. I felt dirty while I was reading it, so I'll just
Oh,
say that.
dear.
1932. Woof. All right. Well, with that, it is time to move to our more modern uses. But first, we need to say thank you to our sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by our amazing patrons on Patreon. And the cool thing about Patreon is it is 100% free to join the community. We have new things every weekday on the feeds. On Mondays, we have a conversation about what movies, shows, books, podcasts, and whatever else everyone is enjoying. Tuesday, see early access to the week's podcast. Wednesdays have all the links, books, songs, and other content mentioned in the week's episode. Thursday has patrons-only polls, and Fridays are our lightly edited behind-the-scenes video featuring all the cut content, goofs, and bonus facts you could imagine.
We've got some other pretty cool stuff too, like original digital artwork once a month made by Shauna, and direct access to talk with us. No algorithms getting in the way of what we see or don't see. Plus, you can get awesome name recognition like Pat Rowe does every episode. And our top spot is currently occupied by the amazing Mary Halsig Lopez. You can join the Bunny Trails community for free at Bunny Trails Pod on Patreon.
That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod.
There are a ton of songs with some variant on Christmas spirit. I will include a few of them throughout our modern uses, and we're going to start off in 1963 when Johnny Cash released a Christmas album called The Christmas Spirit. The first track on the album was a spoken poem Cash read to the background of the song O Little Town of Bethlehem. Here's a short snippet of the poem. Quote, "In London town, I walked around Piccadilly Circus. A mass of people moving here and there, I wondered where. On every face, at every place, was hurry up, I'm late. But a kind old man at a chestnut stand said, Merry Christmas, mate. And I felt the Christmas spirit." End quote.
I like Johnny Cash. I don't recall this. Like I feel like maybe I've heard it and I just didn't even pay attention.
There are, I chose that one because the other verses have some things that culturally I wouldn't say those phrases or use them in that way anymore. So that's the why I
Okay.
chose the one from London. But yeah, it's a very pretty piece if you can recognize it in the context of the time it was
Kind of
it
put
was
it in that
recorded.
lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Christmas Spirit is a 1995 book by Debbie McComber. Here's the synopsis from her website. Quote, "Peter Reinhardt and Hank Meyer are best friends, but their lives couldn't be more different. Peter is a local pastor who is dedicated to his community. He spends his time visiting the flock, attending meetings, and with the holiday season approaching, preparing for the Christmas service and live nativity. As a bartender, Hank serves a much different customer base at his family-owned tavern, including a handful of lonely regulars and the local biker gang. When Peter scoffs that Hank has it easy compared to him, the two decide to switch jobs until Christmas Eve. To their surprise, the responsibilities of both bartender and pastor are similar, but much more difficult than either of them expected. As Peter and Hank begin to see one another's lives in a new light, and each discovers a new love to cherish, their lives are forever changed. End quote. That
Ah.
sounds like it's the synopsis to some sort of Hallmark movie now or Lifetime movie where
Yeah.
they both either, I mean, they would have to fall in love with each other or one of them would have to be replaced with a female and then they could flip roles and then fall in love with each other because I don't think Hallmark does a lot of gay love stories. I don't know why, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know really, but I don't watch a lot of Hallmark movies, so I'm not
Yeah, maybe
sure.
they're not quite so homophobic as they once were.
I don't know. Yeah, but so I'm like, what are the? This is just interesting. Like, what are the loves that
I have
happen?
no idea. I
It's
haven't
interesting.
read the book.
Yeah. So anyway,
You can go
but
read it. It came out in 1995. It's by Debbie McComber.
yeah, I have. I haven't read her books, but I have friends like in my book club who've talked about them, and so I think it kind of fits, that style of sounds like.
I see.
So yeah, cool.
Here's another song. The Christmas Spirit is a 1996 song by Alabama off the album Christmas Volume 2. Here is the chorus. Quote, "The Christmas spirit is in the air. The Christmas spirit is everywhere. Like the day Christ was born in Bethlehem, the Christmas spirit has been coming down." End quote. I'm sure down rhymed with Bethlehem in their very southern accents.
Bethlehem down.
Yes, yes.
I don't know.
You never know. Christmas Spirit is a 2011 single by Richard Marx that was re-released on his 2012 seasonal album of the same name. Music video for the song features a ton of celebrity cameos lip-syncing to the song. Here's the chorus. Quote, "I gotta get the Christmas spirit. I can't get anywhere near it. But I'm here hoping desperately I'll do it up with all the trimmings. Christmas tree and carols singing, anything to bring my baby back to me." End quote. A Christmas Spirit is a 2013 Hallmark movie. Here's the synopsis from Hallmark. Quote, "Charlotte Hart, a distinguished journalist, is spending time with her family over the holidays when a real estate developer approaches their small town with quite an offer. Skeptical and looking for the real scoop, Charlotte drives to see the real estate head honcho to question him. While she's en route, she gets into a terrible car accident and wakes up in the hospital only to realize that her body is in a coma, but her spirit is very much awake. She meets another spirit who just happens to be the greedy developer. It turns out that he was on the other end of the accident and he too is in a coma. With only a few days left before the town votes on the development, Charlotte must try to change the minds of the developer and the town. But that is no easy task when no one can see or hear her. Will her voice be heard?" End quote. So basically, she is a spirit who has to get everyone in the Christmas spirit.
Okay, but like there are now two of them who are in comas. Okay.
I Got the Christmas Spirit is a 2018 picture book by Connie Schofield Morrison, and it is illustrated by Frank Morrison. Here's the synopsis from the publisher, Bloomsbury Publishing. Quote, "It is the most wonderful time of the year, and a mother and daughter are enjoying the sights and sounds of the holiday season. The little girl hears sleigh bells ringing and carols singing. She smells chestnuts roasting, crunch, 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 and sees the flashing lights of the department store windows. Bling, bling, bling. She spreads the spirit of giving wherever she goes, and when she reaches Santa, she tells him her Christmas wish for peace and love everywhere, all the days of the year." End quote. All right. Christmas Spirit is a 2021 song by Kristen Brown. Here's the chorus, quote, "I'll let the mistletoe hang down and put the lights on the house so you can see them shine from where you are. I'll put the angel on the tree and know you're watching over me. I'll turn the music up so loud that you can hear it, 'cause you're my Christmas spirit. You're my Christmas spirit." End quote.
Okay. You know.
Yeah, I saw a thing that she was talking about. She wrote this for her aunt who had passed away and was no longer with her. But
Oh,
so it's a really, I mean, it's a beautiful song. It really is.
yeah.
The Christmas Spirit is a 2022 movie by Maverick Movies. It's free on YouTube. Here's the synopsis from the channel. Quote, Faith comes home after learning of her father's tragic death. Losing her role model, she is faced with a choice between finishing her education and taking over his ministry. Struggling to cope with his passing, she has an unwanted visitor to guide her through her pain. End quote. The unwanted visitor is this random dude who just died in a car accident, was told his mission was to help Faith find her way forward. So
Oh,
basically, he's a spirit who has to get Faith in the Christmas spirit.
okay. It's like a different. It's not the same spirits.
Nope.
Getting.
All right, last but certainly not least, you have probably heard of the popular costume and party shop Spirit Halloween that is known for reanimating dead storefronts during the spooky season into lively places of commerce once more. But did you know this company has moved into the later holidays with their aptly named Spirit Christmas? Apparently, you can go to a Spirit Christmas location in Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or New York to get your picture taken with Santa. None of this surprises me, but I did not know it existed until I started researching this episode. You can also get cool Nightmare Before Christmas and other spooky Christmas themed costumes on their website.
Okay.
And one more quick fact for you. Spencer's, the gag gift lava lamp type shop in many of the remaining American malls, is owned by the same parent company as Spirit Halloween and Spirit Christmas.
Oh, okay.
That
That
does
makes
not surprise
sense.
me now that,
Yeah, that's
now that I
okay.
put two and two together, you're like, oh yeah, I can
Yeah,
see
that
that.
fits. Sure. Huh. Okay. Interesting.
Well, I am not of a faith that celebrates Christmas, but living in the United States, where faiths that do celebrate Christmas dominate the economy and popular culture, it is impossible to get away from. But I don't dislike Christmas. In fact, I love how people are usually kinder to and more patient with each other during the holidays. And I relish an opportunity for good food and good times with people I care about. And regardless of the trappings of the holiday that can sometimes cause stress and frustration, I think a focus on the positives are something we can all get behind. And to me, that is the Christmas spirit. That's about all we have for today. If you have any thoughts on the show or pop culture references we should have included, reach out to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod, or comment on our website, bunnytrailspod.com.
It's poll time. Recently, we asked our patrons bagels or donuts. A full 80% voted for donuts. Jan says, quote, donuts. So many varieties. Best I've had was a fresh key lime donut from Krispy Kreme. Most unique, after that, was a glazed donut burger at the Kansas State Fair, end quote. It is more unique, I'll say that, but key lime sounds unique also.
I feel like you added some of your own commentary in there to pour what Jan said. Well, I would eat a glazed donut burger for sure. I mean, I bet I would feel like crap afterwards, but I could see how that would taste amazing. The like the glazed donut, like the sweetness with
Mm-hmm.
the savoriness of the burger. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. JGP says, quote, bagels or donuts? How on earth am I supposed to choose? A bagel and smear of cream cheese is the best breakfast there is, but donuts? Donuts. Donuts are the best pastry any time of day, end quote.
Yeah, I tend to agree, JGP. I like bagels, but donuts? Oh yeah. In the late 90s, I worked at a donut place in Wichita that was helpfully called the Donut Shop. The best donut I've ever had was fresh off of the line. It was a glazed chocolate cake donut. It had a slight crunch on the outside under the glaze, but was moist and yummy on the insides. It just, oh my goodness, it was so good. I've never had another donut that was that good. But fresh donuts, as in like 15 minutes coming off the line, they're all good. They're yummy, and I'm totally in for it.
Okay. Pat added, quote, if I had to choose one to take to Mars with me, definitely donuts. Best I ever had was the first Krispy Kreme hot off the rollers. Can't replace your first, end quote.
Emily comes in with a dissenting opinion, but also a great recommendation. Quote, Einstein Brothers bagels in the Chicago area, end quote. I do like bagels in place of bread, especially on breakfast sandwiches, but I'll take a bagel in place of bread on almost any sandwich, actually. And now I want a sandwich.
Well, as a reminder, our silly polls mean absolutely nothing and are not scientifically valid. And patrons of all levels, including our free tiers, can take part. Head over to patreon.com/bunnytrailspod to take this week's poll. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week. Until then, remember,
Words belong to their users.